Hello. Hi everybody. Sorry, racing to my computer. Hi Heather. Welcome. Good evening. Namaste to all you beautiful souls. Welcome back to this discussion of the Tyldwick Tarot. And today we're going to focus on a very what should we call it? Solid card. I have no idea what that adjective means in French, but I love that adjective. I love using that word solide as an adjective in French. I mean, my French is so bad. But when I look at this particular Pope card, I mean, this is a massive, massive statue. And I thought we could start today by comparing the High Priest and the High Priestess, because these are in such contrast. We'll also look at the minor fives tonight. So, and the devil as well. Yes, that was part of my plan. So I need to make sure to get that card out. And why we're going to look at the devil as well too has to do with the number 5. And so I feel like we've touched on that card. We did talk a little bit about mirror cards, but I will also perhaps discuss the devil in terms of the lovers when we look at the 6s. So lots to talk about, and what gorgeous art we are looking at here. Just bear with me while I pull my PDF open on the screen so we can have a look. If we need to refer to the minors especially. Okay. For those of you that are new to my channel, my name is Sadhana, and I'm a reader and just absolutely fascinated by this deck. I remember the first time that I saw it, and it was not in print at the time. I sort of missed just after it came out the first time, and was so happy when the second edition came out. This was after Neil had passed. His brother republished the deck, and now there is a third edition, and there's no difference between the second and third edition. The edges, the box is a little bit different, same cards, but there was a PDF that was published, so that's certainly of interest to some people. Yeah, so we're gonna dive into all of this. So first of all, let's just pause here and have a look at this this Pope card. It is, I talked about some of the statues that were outside in the garden. The Empress card to me feels a bit foreboding in this deck, and when I look at this Pope card, I don't know how you imagine. And this, this is one of the things in this deck that I want to allow, and that is to walk into these rooms, to walk up to these sets, to these settings, and imagine how this feels. I imagine this statue towering over me, that I may reach up to the level of the, sorry, I should pull that picture up so I don't have to turn my head away from the microphone. Just let me get that here. Where are you, number 5? And the statue of the lovers is also really interesting. Okay. Oh, come on. Now, is there a book there? No. What? Is there a lamp in his right hand? What is in his right hand? Is it described in the guidebook? I don't remember. But he is holding something in his right hand. So I imagine that if I walked up to this statue, that I would probably only be at the level maybe of his navel, maybe the knees. Like, this feels very ominous and foreboding. I feel as if there is a loud, booming James Earl Jones kind of voice about to deliver a message. Aloha, Jonathan. Namaste. And Clevis, welcome. I don't know. And also, if you look at the color of the cement that is behind, I get a cold feeling here. So we're in a cool room with a enormous statue in a gold chair, gold throne. It's just really something. So this is the Pope. This is a communicator between spirit and this world. And so we approach this statue, and what do you hear? What do you hear? I mean, I think of James Earl Jones. I know there's other great narrators I think of some of the English ones that just used to be narrating some of the old books, literature. But that's what I hear, and I feel as if I am being taught a lesson. And I don't know if that makes sense. Like there is something being delivered in this card. Sadhana, you have forgotten. You have forgotten your roots. Honestly, honest to God. Now, am I going to bring into this card any sense of what I would read into a Waite-Smith deck? Honestly, I don't know. Oh, the late Richard Burton. Yes. Beautiful voice. I feel like I'm being reminded of something very important here for my greater good. This to me, now, when I think of Hierophant and Pope, I don't necessarily think of the qualities of listening and intuition that I would pick up in a High Priestess card or some other cards in the tarot. But I feel like this is a card where I want to pay attention. Now, granted, in the guidebook, there's lots of possible description to this card. He does use the verb loom, and there's something to that. So, I don't know, how do you feel when you look at this card? I mean, and compare the High Priest and the High Priestess. That delicate table that I described as a sewing table, you know, it's got fine legs, and there's a femininity to it, like the shape of the legs, the shape of the goddess there, just the sheer size of the two statues. I think it speaks volumes to the volume, perhaps, of the message. I can feel, and also in the Taurian energy. So if you're going to bring any of that in, the weight. So I would say that this is a card. You guys are so quiet. You must have some impressions here. This is a weighty message that is that we are facing. I've told this story before, but I was in a Kali temple. Actually, it was a Tara temple in a village called Tara Peet in India. And these temples are so busy. You really do need protection. You need a guide. You need to hold on to the person in front of you. And it really is an overwhelming experience. And we fortunately had a guide. We went into the inner sanctum of the temple where the priest was going to bless us. And we were like sardines, and it's hot, and there's a lot of incense in the air. Honestly, you feel like you don't know whether you're going to, if the crowd sort of goes too much one way, everybody could fall over and somebody could get hurt. It is that dangerous. But when I was there, and we were sort of in the protection, we had an Indian guide as well as a local, amazing, one of my teachers, Ananda Shakti from Toronto. and we were protected, so we were safe. But it was my turn to go into the inner, where the priest was going to bless us, and somebody said my name, and I turned around, and the priest was right there, and he had a large brass foot. And I don't know how much a brass foot this big would weigh, or maybe there were two priests holding it. I don't remember. I turned around, and this priest, the brass foot of Tara, whacked me in the forehead, and thank goodness I had friends around me. They held me up, and I had to sort of lean against the wall for a bit. That's kind of what I feel here. And Samantha, one of my daughters, was on, was it that? I think it was that trip. And she went into a Kali sort of inner sanctum and got, now it wasn't a physical murti that she got hit with. She got hit with the energy and just about fell over. So that's really what I feel here. Yeah, she really did send me a message. So, you know, I often feel like we don't pay attention to the subtle nuances of the qualities of a card, the qualities of earth, statues, statuettes, weight, earthy versus airiness, that kind of thing. Like, this is heavy. This is heavy. And think in English of what that word heavy means. And this is dense and solid, right? So what about if you disregard, I'm reading Heather's comment here, you disregard the title on the card and you look more at this just as a holy, it's a statue of a holy being, somebody who is a vessel for spirit. That's all I'm feeling here. I'm not saying this is the Pope. I just feel that this is a big delivery of a message. Yeah. And you may, I know there's mention that the acolytes aren't in the foreground in this card, but there's angels that sort of replace that. There's also a so when I look at this card, I see all the space that is up here, and I can hear the echoing in the room, which is a very different quality from the card, that the priestess card that's on the right. So I just think it's really good to look at these together to understand the nature of the message. So if the voice, the message of the high priest is James Earl Jones, who is the voice of the priestess? And what do you hear there? And how is that being delivered? And that's going to be personal for each of us. And it may be in a whisper, it may be in an inner ear. And there's something quite different here too. Like, I'm very much reminded, like the two obelisks in the High Priestess card feel, they help to keep me centered. But honestly, I don't think I could find my center in this Pope card. And that may be from the just my own personal experience from the number of temples that I have been in countries all over the world. It's overwhelming. It really is. Yeah. So please feel free, those of you that are coming back to watch the replay. I know there's probably about 50, 60 people that are following this these initial discussions, and would love to hear your stories about walking into overwhelming alcoves of temples, cathedrals. And the card on the right, I feel like maybe I could sit in on my knees. I could sit in a pose and just sit and listen and um, almost meditate. There's a carpet on the floor. It's a bit warmer. I just imagined what the voice of High Priestess Janis Joplin. Wow. Wow, that's really cool. Yeah. I think this is a great kind of exercise. Now, this is a little different than me trying to find a song to go with a card. I have songs for many of the 78 cards, but I think this idea of whose voice or what is the nature of the voice that you hear is a really good question. Okay, now this discussion gets really interesting. So we can actually go into some of, what does the high priest mean? And these two cards are often compared. Now, not so much when we're talking about Waite-Smith, because we tend to do numerology by reduction with Waite-Smith. But through the Marseille tradition, the majors that are linked together are the ones that have the same actual Roman numeral. So 5 with 15, 6 with 16, 7 with 17. And I think these are two really interesting cards to look at together, especially when the card on the right tends to skew negative. And the card, well, I mean, it depends where you're coming from and how you're going to be interpreting this card. For me, the card on the left isn't the Pope. It is a powerful energy of spirit, booming. And the physical nature of this statue, of this body, I can say that I've only visited Amma once. And it wasn't me, it was Samantha. I also have shared this. Sorry, I share these stories so many times. When you go to see Amma, you get quite close and then you sit in a row of chairs. And then when it's your turn, you get to go up and receive your message, have your hug. And I think our group was close, and maybe I was Samantha was in the third chair, and this is my daughter, and I was in the fourth chair. And Samantha, she's strong, and she was a lot younger at that time, but she was so overwhelmed by the energy of being in the presence of Amma. Amma is Indian hugging saint, beautiful, beautiful energy. This was in her temple in Kerala in India. Yeah. Okay. So I'm telling you this because it is not necessary. It's a overwhelming. In a way, it's a bit like it's almost like a tower moment. This kind of experience. It kind of shakes you from the inside in a way you don't understand. But I'm sure many of you have had these kinds of experiences. And you might not be able to receive the message in that moment. But if you are doing this kind of work, hopefully over the next weeks and months, you can integrate the experience and absorb the message. So what I'm picking up in this deck is that the card on the right, the mirror, is really important. And it's in a dark room. How many of you have done mirror work? This is actually you can do this with past life energy, and I've done it with other people. I've done it with myself in a mirror. So you go into a dark room, and if you're with a partner and the partner, you have a white wall behind you, and you kind of go into a bit of a meditative state. You open your eyes, you blur your focus, and your partner in front of you, their face will likely change. And it might flash through several changes. And you have a journal, you can sketch, you can write down impressions, and then later share that with the person. It's one way to pick up information, energy about past lives. But when you do this with yourself, it can be quite alarming, as if you're doing it in candlelight. And it is a beautiful way to explore energy that is coming through that's really old. And I think sometimes in the Devil card, which for me is 100% Swadhisthana chakra. Swadhisthana chakra is the chakra that where the karmas come through. This is all about relationship. It's about our emotional body and our response to our emotions. And I think the difference between these two cards is one of receiving and integrating, but from another. But the mirror card is one of sort of looking at yourself. And I don't know if you understand what I'm saying here. But it's a great contrast. Can we be open to receiving, listening and processing an energy? That's the card on the left. The card on the right is, can we look a little deeper into the window of our souls to understand our journey? So one is more of a, it's about us doing the work, as opposed to the card on the left, us receiving the work. And then Heather shares, that is a form of scrying, and it's like opening up an energetic portal, protective energy bound. Yes, of course. In all that kind of work, they are very, very important. So I invite you to sit with these two cards and to be in the nuance of what is being asked of us in these two cards. I think this deck is haunting and can move great energy. So, and as always, you take what resonates and leave the rest. Okay. Now, I have been comparing minors and majors, and there is no indication in this deck, as far as any of the literature, of intentional correspondences between the minors and the majors. So this may or may not resonate or speak anything to you. Okay, so let's go to the Five of Staves. Okay. Now, the number 5 for me, and Jonathan can speak to this through Chinese medicine sort of energy, and that is the fifth element is a unifying energy. It's that that energy that connects all of the other 4 elements. And the thing I like about this is if you replace the word pope or hierophant with pontiff, and you think of the French word pont. This idea of bridge, and what's another word I like to use here? Like electric conductor. I'm not talking about in a terrain. I'm talking about conductor, like, like connecting to, um, yeah, you know what a conductor is. That's what that's what I really feel on the energy of the fives. Like there's this power that is taking us from one point to the next. And it's almost as if we are being pushed through with a force. And this force often exhibits in the fives with chaos and confusion and some sort of power that we can't understand. And if you have studied the tarot Kabbalistically, you'll know this is the martial planet. So these are Mars cards. These are, yeah, conduit. These are these are the cards of the spiritual warrior. These are the cards of the warrior. These are the cards of the soldier. There's a determination in these cards to become a better person, and we might not understand what is underneath this energy, but I really like these cards, and I think they make us all, be better. Yeah, so in this one, we have a shield. And this is, if you think about the shield, the shield, it's here, and it's copper or it's brass, and it reflects. And when I think about this, I think about energetically, a shield. And it's funny that Heather just mentioned how important protection is in this work. Well, I love that there is a shield here because it also energetically protects us. Let's just go here to Jonathan's comment. The closest model would have the Western ether standing in the center of the Eastern earth element. Okay, I obviously need to study that much, much more, because we have 7 elements or more in Chinese medicine, right? We have wood and we have metal. So it's a lot different. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I must remind myself of that. And then, so we have the shield on the left and we have the 5 javelins on the right. Now, does he mention fitness? I think he does mention fitness and competition. The thing I also want to remember in the 5 of fire is, while this is not so, suit of wands not necessarily connect to the body, there's a tremendous energy and exuberance in the suit of wands. And often what is required in the 5 of wands requires physical energy, physical strength to endure the chaos of the 5. We are challenged. I think sometimes this comes up at work or in a boardroom, and you have principles and you're having a discussion or a debate, and the conversation, the language becomes very hot and fiery, and often people say things in unexpected ways, and sometimes it can knock the wind out of us. It feels like, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you say, I feel like I've quite literally been in a fight? And that, and the stillness of this card is kind of funny in that way, right? Because the wands are so still, and the javelin, the shield is laid down. But there's an intensity to this card. And the thing I like about the shield being there and the shield being so prominent in the card is the reminder that we have the ability to deflect always in all of this work. Deflect and protect. Right, Jonathan. Yeah. We did talk about this a little bit. I think it was more than a year ago. We had a discussion, Jonathan and Amber and Masha, I believe, and the understanding of these energies can really help build emotion and vocabulary and comfort with the idea of a card of, so fire plus 5, things like that. Yeah. So where is the idea of pontiff? Where is the idea of bridge here? And I think that's something I want to discuss in each of these cards, or just briefly mention, and that is, this is like trial by fire. We are being thrown into the fire, pushed into the fire for our greater good, for our own advancement. And perhaps even we're not quite ready to battle with the javelin, but it has been being placed in our hand, and it is our time to pick up the javelin and the shield and to get active. Yeah. Okay, let's look at the 5 of Cups. Green. Okay, so here is the 5 of Cups. Haunting card. This card, it's a mausoleum. It feels a bit like one of those movies where children wander through an old property and looking for the wicked witch who lives in the house. Look at my thing. When I look at this card, I see a mouth here and a nose, and I see eyes, like this mausoleum could come alive. So what is this energy, and what does this have to do? Well, this certainly matches the energy of the card in the center. This is a booming energy. And I feel this connection here is to understand that. So think of Waitsmith, right? 5 of Cups. There's something that is so ready to be released. In order to move forward, we need to let go. We need to let go of the past. Well, in this card, this haunting energy reminds me how old our stuff is. And I was having this discussion with, I can't remember, day before yesterday, with somebody, and who was so fixated, or maybe it was me, I was so fixated on my present issue here and now in a particular situation. This is one of those cards that says, Sadhana, step back. Step back. How are you feeling? Where do you feel this in your body? Go back. Step back. When did you feel this when you were in your 20s? When did you feel this as a child? What is this? This is the idea of the letting go in the 5 of Cups card and processing old energy. Again, here's the big voice. I think if we understand how long we've been carrying this, there is more motivation for letting it go. And if you think about that in terms of this haunting energy and the death card, how important the release is here, I really get that vibe in this card. And so this pontiff, this bridge in this card is saying, you shall not pass until you let it go. You're going to be stuck in this haunted wood with this anthropomorphic mausoleum until you have the courage to let it go. So, look in the mirror. What do you see? This is so fantastic. I love this stuff. It really rocks my boat. And I just want to say thank goodness we're doing this. Okay. And you know what? Please feel free to say, Sadhana, I don't know what you're talking about, or where are you coming up with that? You know, I get excited about this deck. I want to wander into these cards and be in these cards and feel the coolness or the voices. Right, Jonathan? Like, if you realize how old it is, and that this has physically been making you sick for lifetimes, that this has messed up your head and your heart for lifetimes, and you're at this place where you can start to understand that, this is so good. So good. Okay, so let's go to the Five of Swords. Now, this is a kind of dark card. I'm going to have to pull it up on the screen so I can see it. I do like how the color is bumped in the PDF. It makes it a lot easier to see. Okay. Old man's beard. Do you know what old man's beard is? We get it here a lot. It grows on the trees here, and it's one of those things, you know, you wouldn't want to walk into when you were out in the forest at night. Yeah. And please share all of your individual insights. Thank you for that, Heather. Okay. Okay, so we have let's put the mausoleum, let's put both of these on here to see if we can pick up some subtle nuances, differences between these two cards. Now, what I am feeling more in the Five of Swords is that it's called Pele's here. Oh, that's so interesting. And you all know who Pele is, right? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so in the Five of Swords, I feel like I'm inside. I feel like I'm in the attic. And it's really dusty, and I am, yeah, like I could sneeze. I'm feeling a little not sure about, you know, what is in any given corner. Now, what for me is really brilliant about this card is because I go to attic, I'm thinking attic, the sort of madness, the challenges of the mind, the dusty corners of the mind. And when I put that adjective there, I wonder if, so with the fives, we're being asked to move through something. I almost feel as if I have forgotten something. That the cause of the Five of Swords is that I've forgotten something. Or maybe I just didn't know it. So let me give you an example. Outlander fans, we saw this. If you read the books, it's also featured in the books. Okay, so think about when Bree and Roger went up into the attic in the manse, and they were looking for research. This is when they had that rat satire. Remember that scene? You know, there's so many boxes and trunks and old cabinets. Or think about the room of requirement in Harry Potter. Why am I sharing this? Because I get a really, really interesting vibe with this card about going into the attic and being asked to remember something. And I think this is a really big stretch for the Five of Swords, but I think it's kind of brilliant. And if we can remember, then we shall pass. So if you look at, so let's put these 3 5s on the table. Imagine the 5s as a narrow passageway. And there's a challenge that is being asked in each of the 5s. And if we face the challenge, then we can move on and find some peace and harmony in the 6. And so what do you see as the challenge in each of these cards? And it's going to be different for all of us. And I really like what Jonathan's saying. Jonathan says in the 5 of Swords, I feel like I'm standing outside in an overgrown side garden, looking at the half-hidden broken window in the cellar, and I love the Marseille knot on the wall. Yeah, so in the Swords, we have the Marseille knot on all of the minor cards. Yeah. What is this saying? This is saying, let this deck take you where it will. Go into these spaces. I'm just getting this tingle in my head. Go into these spaces. Go into these rooms, whether they're outside or inside, and trust what you are moving through. And of course, because of the description in the guidebook about the old man's beard or Pele's hair, that wouldn't be in an attic, right? That would be outside in a garden. But I'm just sharing with you just this thought. You know, we have this process in this deck of understanding the metaphors of the rooms of the house as parts of the body, as parts of the human experience. So challenge yourself to that as well too. And be in the physicality of the estate of the Tyldwick Tarot, but also go inside. And then the last card for today is the other 5 here. This one. Another dark corner, but okay, so here I am at the gate to the secret garden. This is where I am. But I've already cleared away the overgrowth. Yeah, I'm many cards in this deck take me to Frances Hodgkiss Burnett. I never get that name quite right. Secret Garden. Uh, I loved that book as a child. I remember the first time it was read aloud to me in grade 3. That was just, oh, it's a fantastic book. If you've never read The Secret Garden, read The Secret Garden. Okay, so 5 of coins. This little spot is a garden of the poor where broken furniture is stuck in corners, wind chimes hang. Is someone sleeping in that tumble down arrangement of cardboard? The door seems to be locked, but plants are growing. Okay, so I also wonder why. So when I see doors and windows, I'm always imagining, are the doors or the windows open or closed? So 5 of Pentacles is moving us through a physical challenge, physical, worldly challenge, a challenge of the physical body, a challenge of finances, something to do with safety, perhaps. So think about why in that case the door might be closed and what needs to be done in order to open the door. Can you even open the door? Does the door open by pulling it towards you? Does the door open by moving it inward into the garden? Do you need a key? I think this is a fantastic card for path working. I think it could take you into some really interesting corners of the mind. The wind chimes, if you can hear the wind chimes, that might also trigger something for you. So you could use that as the pathway into the cards. Kind of powerful. For me, this is heart. Like I can feel, like I was feeling in the last card, I was feeling kind of tingly in my head and light. And now I can almost feel like not tachycardia, but a racing in the heart. Like there's something here that feels, it wants my attention. It's calling me in. And I know that I need to go through that door. Why is the door closed? And these are the kind of questions that if I'm going to use this deck to read for somebody else, I'm going to ask these questions. One of the decks that might read really well with this as a sort of like sometimes I'll use an oracle deck if I don't know where I'm going with a querent, and I might pull out Divine Doors and pull a card from Divine Doors. And I think that deck would be a nice integration here. Yeah. So where are you on the bridge? What are you moving from and what are you moving to? Does the Sorry, Amber's right underneath me. She's not the best. So funny. I don't know if you heard her. Imagine the voice of the guide in, imagine the voice of the guide. Imagine the voice of a guide speaking to you in each of these cards, guiding your action. And that's one of the ways I love to bring in the energy of the major with each of the minors. Yeah. I love the woods too. Yeah. It's funny. There's a trail here, and I remember when I first came here to the coast, and it's a good hour from here. Like you get there, it's uphill, and I didn't know that it is an actual gate to a private property because you're in the middle of nowhere and you wouldn't assume there'd be a private property there. And I remember the first time somebody said, "Yeah, you can't go in there." And I heard the story about who lives there. This also kind of reminds me of that, though it was much more open. Hello, Arya. To me, the frame on the right of the door, the Five of Coins, looks like the metal frame headboard on a bed. Ah, so interesting how we all have these images, different images. Um, Now, Arya, this is another question. So maybe even in this card, for some people, there's this idea of something being discarded or something being left behind. And I'll just briefly mention this. I need to sign off, but um, Five of Coins in dust to onyx is that boat that is crossing the Mediterranean from northern Africa to Europe somewhere, that famous Massimo photograph. And what Courtney did in that card was she put the coins behind the boat. Five of Coins is a lesson of leaving material goods behind so we can progress forward. So perhaps this is like, again, like the room of requirement where we need to put things away so we can go on. We need to, again, physically release so we can go forward. So that's a possibility as well, too. Okay. All right. So thank you all so much for today and all of your contributions. And I really look forward to hearing more stories in the comments below as more people watch these videos. Yeah. And I'll see you next week. Take good care of yourselves. Namaste.